got me copyrighted. So let's go ahead and switch over here. Let's go to 2048 and then I'll start this stuff. So go in A class and we're just going to start out. Let's see here. Queen's Mall is the first one. And then we'll pick the Physar speed. Okay, so this video, mainly, is to just address the whole Breakarts thing. Because at the moment, the channel's blowing up and more people are jumping in on it. So I thought I'd do this as a more of an analysis video and a breakdown as to why I feel like Breakarts could have been better than what it is at the moment. I know people have been saying, dude, you should have given it time or whatever. But I just don't feel like, you know, after an hour's worth of playing that I got what I paid for. I know people are saying, oh, the devs, you know, they're still fixing things and basically they've still got time to fix things. That's fine. But I just wanted things to be better. So straight off the bat, the premise for this is I was waiting forever for this game. And coming off the back of 2048 here, I just thought, go on, I'll see what it's like. I did try my hand at the mobile version beforehand, and then the demo for the mech builder, and I was really interested in the mech builder. In fact, I think that's what draws most people in. There's a lot of mech fans that go in it just for the mech building. So, if you saw my stream, which is still up, you saw my stream, which is still up, I play the game for about 84 minutes, and during that 84 minutes, what happens is I end up really getting my ass handed to me on quick play. Now, I stated this previously, but it's been said a lot of times on the forums as well, and it looks like the developers are actually addressing the problem, which is that the AI in quick play is just absolutely unforgiving by about the third race. I think the main problem comes with how clunky the gameplay is, because when you are playing, like for instance, I'm playing on this now, that quake that got used on me there did not feel too bad, whereas on Breakarts, the moment something hits you, you go out of the level and you slow down immediately, unlike something like this, where there are no real level boundaries, so you're not having to worry about that. It's just about focusing on taking people's health off. And then on top of that, making sure that you get first. So, basically, in terms of the combat system, I do not think the combat system helps. It's really clunky. The way that this works, at the moment, the missile is the only thing that homes in. The rest of the stuff is very direct fire. But even the direct fire stuff, it's viable in certain situations. It doesn't feel like somebody's just pounding on you 90% of the time. And even when they are here, like you can see there for a moment where I took a hit, it's not as if I'm falling behind loads, whereas on quick play, on Breakarts, I was just getting punished left, right and centre, and there was nothing I could do. I was going out the level boundaries, I was slowing down. You can see this on the stream. The main key point to take away from it is that even if I mess up on 2048 here, I'm still gonna make some sort of a comeback. It might not be amazing, I might not actually win, but at least I feel like I'm actively making some sort of progress towards trying to win the race. Whereas on Breakarts, the moment you go out, that's it. Some people have said, well, it's because your build's awful. And I'll admit, yeah, I went into it straight away with the whole idea of just, because I've built a mech before in the demo, or rather I've built so many mechs in the demo, I'd just get into it and see what the racing was like, because that's honestly what had me interested at that time, was seeing whether the base gameplay was good. And that's the thing, it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was good because the base mechs that they give you don't seem like they're good enough to do even the easiest of races. That's a mix between how the levels are designed and how the combat system is, because the levels are all designed kind of F-Zero style, in which they have no boundaries like these levels. So for instance, if I was to go on this now, go to main menu and go to Sol, it would be exactly the same. I go to race box, I go to 2048 A-Class, and we go to Sol here. Sol has no boundaries. The thing is, even though it has no boundaries, and sure I can get hit off the map a bunch of times, I still don't feel like I'm terrible at it. That might be because I have certain experiences with this before. I must have played it for like at least a month in and out for 8 hours a day. So it's one of those things where, sure, I have more experience with this game, but from the get-go, it didn't feel like I was incapable of taking corners or that I was doing something completely wrong, whereas with Breakarts, it just felt like everything I was doing was terrible, even with the base mechs that they give you. Now, on top of that, we did try and use different mechs. We used the heavily armoured one at the beginning. We used the lightweight to try and get away from people after that, and then we used the one that was specifically good at cornering, and found that the one that was good at cornering was the best one. Now, that obviously is going to sound stupid, but when you've tried like every other mech, and not every other mech is viable, especially at the beginning of like the third race, that is kind of worrying, considering the way that the gameplay works in this. It slowly ramps things up. Like, for instance, Sol is one of the final maps in 2048, and you can see why, because basically, like I was saying about the other maps, all the other maps have boundaries in them. This doesn't, so it requires a lot of, I'd say, attention to make sure you don't go flying off. You've got to make sure you're in your ship well there, because otherwise you go flying down that gap. You've got lots of trap areas where you can just fly off, or ships can nudge you off. Weapons will throw you off track, just like Breakarts. It's just that this handles things a lot better. On the Breakarts, like I said, most of it comes from the weapons systems themselves just knocking you off all the time, and you feel like nothing is able to be done about it. I mentioned that in one of the reviews and in the comments that I put up previously, that basically whenever you get hit by a weapon in Breakarts, you feel like you're just off all the time. And you kind of are. People address this, saying like, look, what happens is you end up going flying off the side of the map, you slow down, and then everyone passes you. It feels a lot like old racing games, like for instance, Super Hang-On. Super Hang-On was punishing. The moment you hit something, or the moment you go off track, you slow down immediately, and once that happens, the AI players just race past you immediately and you run out of time. That's how it works. And it feels a lot more like that. I just feel that starting at the beginning of Breakarts, everything should have been a lot easier and more player-friendly, rather than dipping people right in and being like, okay, you've got to spend 2 hours customizing a mech just so that you can beat the first, what, 3 races or whatever. I mean, it's interesting to note how the Breakarts video as well, the release video, shows mostly the first 2 levels from quick play, which are some of the easier ones. So I don't know whether that was a ploy in marketing to get people to think, oh, it's a little bit easier to play rather than what happens. I mean, the art style for it is visually stunning. I enjoy the simplicity of it, but just the way that it plays is absolutely terrible. I know people say, oh, you're being so harsh. You know, it's really nasty of you to do this to the devs, but all I want is for the game to be better. That's why I returned it, to make a point, really, and plus I wasn't happy keeping hold of something that I was so upset with after being hyped for ages. And then sort of getting excited, going on thinking, oh, I can play it, it'll be no problem, and then immediately having problems with it. It's upsetting. It really is. And, you know, I don't want to be... oh, excuse me. I don't want to be having, you know, fights with people in the comments saying, oh, you know, your opinion's invalid or your opinion's wrong because of this. This is just because I want the devs to be better at the game. What I'd do to fix it, like I said, is in the other reviews, is have feedback, ease up the gameplay at the beginning, make the mech customization still be a viable thing, but not impact gameplay too heavily at the beginning. I feel like, especially with the reward system, where you get to, like, what is it, rank 5 and you start unlocking some seriously good stuff. I feel like basically with the ranking system, it should be kind of like this, where when you do a race, say like I win this race now, I should be given a part for a mech based on my ranking, because there's so much to unlock in Breakarts. I feel like if you did, say, one race and unlocked a low tier item because you came in maybe second or whatever, and then unlocked a higher tier item because you came in first, that would be a lot better than trying to block people off with different rankings, because then it would encourage you to get better at the game at the same time. I know you could say that about the current system that it's got, but I just feel like because the customization is such an important thing, and you're trying to get people in at the very beginning to customize the mechs, to put them up, show them off, and race, I feel like it would be a lot lower barrier for entry to do that. It would encourage people to play over and over and over again, and it would encourage people to get better at the levels. I mean, like, for instance, I tried getting better at those levels. I played one level, I think it was 4 or 5 times, trying to complete it before I actually did it. And that was mainly due to the combat, me boosting all over the place because of my build, and then being unable to do anything because of a mix of the combat smacking me off the field and me trying to figure out the controls. The controls in this, they're fine. I can press left and right to go left and right, X is boost, and then the air brakes that I have here to take corners more, the L2 and R2, whereas the controls, the default controls with no key bindings on Breakarts, I feel are a lot worse. They just hinder your ability to actually take corners good, to drift around them, and to navigate, because it all feels clunky while trying to use the combat system, especially because the combat system, kind of like this, has a feature where you can turn around, but you don't necessarily need to while still going. I just feel that that option could have been taken out, because it just feels like an afterthought, just to kind of, you know, we'll just turn around and get a hit in on someone behind us. I tried it and that didn't work. It's one of those things where if it feels like an afterthought, it shouldn't really be included in the game. That's just my experience. So yeah, with both of these games compared alongside each other, again, the things that I would change: the controls, the difficulty, the way that the AI works in terms of how punishing it is. Not necessarily the levels, but the way that the progression system is for the unlocks, and just make it generally easier for lower entry. You know, the bar for entry is so high at the moment for it, I feel anyway. I'm probably going to get countered by somebody turning around and being like, "Oh, Dave, I made a mech in an hour, it was no problem." But that hour could have been spent on gameplay. I just feel like that's something that they're missing out on, is getting people into the game, enjoying the racing, because that's the main part of it, and then doing the mech customization, because it feels like it wants to do both, but instead of trying to do them evenly, it focuses heavily on the customization, like Armored Core or whatever, and then as a result you end up spending like an hour customizing, or trying to get used to it, and then by the time you've done that, then you spend 3 minutes in a race or whatever. It just doesn't seem balanced in terms of race to customization for how much time you spend. Anyway, this is my little rant style thing going on live to express what I think could have been done better. So if you enjoyed, then by all means leave a comment saying what you enjoyed. If you enjoyed it to the point where you think, okay, he's got a point, leave a like, whatever. Anything you want to comment on, leave it down below. I'll be happy to address criticisms and everything else, because I'm probably going to get those as well. First place. But yeah, I don't want to go ranting off on this for any longer. It's like 14 minutes. So yeah, I'll leave that to you guys, and I'll see you next time.